Hi guys, I'm the smoked Gen Z lad, and today we're going to talk about this NEET protest and the lathi charge that happened. Let's talk from the beginning, okay? From the core issue to whatever has happened till date. We are going to discuss about everything because I've seen quite a lot of content creators on social media like Instagram and even YouTube who are, uh, continuously pushing out content, and for me it kind of looks a bit artificial, so I just don't want to say that it was pre-planned or it was a paid propaganda, though there are some people who suggest that it's a paid propaganda. But let's keep that aside and let's discuss what is the actual situation. Like, let's talk only facts, because see, I'll clearly say if something is an allegation, I'll say alleged, and if it's confirmed, then I'll say so and so, because we don't want to label anyone that they are bad or they are good. Okay, so that's the thing I'm going to do. Okay. So let's start with what we are going to discuss in this whole thing. So yeah, what's the core issue? Okay, the core issue is straightforward. NEET UG, okay, NEET undergraduate paper was leaked, or it was allegedly leaked, especially in Bihar and some other areas. And there is another controversy related to that, that is the grace marks. Some students were given grace marks, and some students obtained unusually high scores, like multiple people from the same center and all. And there is also an allegation that uh, it's like mass copying and mass leak, like within the same center there are multiple toppers, like 20 toppers, 30 toppers and all. So this is not the first time this has happened. I think this is the second time. Previously too, in the last year too, there was a NEET paper leak, if I'm not wrong. So that shows what's the core issue, right? So what is the actual demand? uh, Demand is proper investigation, accountability by the like what we say, the proper organization or authority, which in this case would be the National Testing Agency, NTA. Okay, and they asked for fair examination, and they asked, uh, if there was any paper leak, please identify the centers in which it was done and only conduct re-examination over there. Why do you want to nullify the effort of everyone across the country? So that was the main thing. Actually, what they did was they nullified the uh, result of all the examinees. So it's like setting them back to zero, ground zero, and that's a mentally devastating blow for a student, which I'll again talk about later. So yeah, now we established the core issue of the protest. Let's see what is the purpose of the protest. The objectives of protest were very simple. Okay, it's not that complicated, especially if you have been following this news for long enough. You know what the protest was meant to be. uh, so one of the demands was fair examination. Okay, and the other was, uh, how would you put it, giving good opportunities, giving equal opportunities and supporting merit. Okay, and the third is punish those who are leaking papers, or punish the networks which claim to leak papers or which have leaked papers till date. And another demand is reform NTA, because right now, as you can see, NTA is a mess, and there have been multiple paper leaks. So this is a this is a very necessary demand, reform of NTA. Or there are multiple other choices, like you can uh, like change the format of the exam, because right now it's a pen and paper, if I'm not wrong, and JE is a computer based test. So is there a possibility to change NEET to computer based? I don't think so, because A computer based exam would not allow students to express their knowledge, and also it would be way too long to actually convert that. And the final thing is those who got affected right now, uh, that is the students who got affected, they are asking for justice, which is uh, their right, as a student they are supposed to study, but right now they are begging for justice, which shows how bad the response from the government is. So I'm making that clear, I don't support the government over here. So now coming, we are also established the purpose and demands of the protest, let's say why I have problems with that protest. My concern is not with students protesting, because I completely support students, it's their right. But the moment, the protest started becoming political, where it got hijacked by multiple ideological groups, and everyone wants to bring it to their own way, I believe it shifted attention from what it started with, because it took away the attention from students, and it literally gave the spotlight to someone else. And is it good spotlight? I would say no, because let's see, some student organizations linked to the left wing, like AISF, SFI, and all were present over there. Okay, multiple Aam Aadmi Party leaders or members were spotted over there, and some JNU activists or people associated with JNU activism were also present over there, and there are also some other activists and intellectuals. So let's see, uh, let's talk about AISF particularly. I still remember the poster. They said, uh, "We I stand with Sonam Wangchuk" was the poster, and they said, "Ban NEET." Okay, one of I remember from the bottom up: ban NEET, reject NEP, and scrap NTA. Okay, so I don't know who is the great person who came up with this order, but yeah, let's go in the order: scrap NTA, reject NEP, and ban NEET. So NEET is not an organization, but rather it's an exam. So you can scrap an exam and bring a new one in, so you should say scrap NEET rather than ban NEET. Okay, and NTA is an organization or agency, so you can ban NTA and bring some other body over there. So it should be ban NTA and not scrap NTA. I mean, it can be interchangeable, but yeah. And coming to reject NEP, right? New education policy. Policies can be scrapped and new policies can be brought again. And you can also reject, which means you want to revert back to the old policy. Nothing wrong with that. But Sonam Wangchuk has stated his support for the new education policy. I actually want to verify this, so let me check. Sonam, because we are very close to getting the truth, we are in the digital age, so I'm just one Google search away. And yes, Sonam Wangchuk has previously supported the national education policy of 2020, which was, he publicly praised the policy for emphasis on mother tongue education, experiential learning, experiential learning. Wow, my sleep is getting to me. Uh, yeah, okay. So Google says he supports NEP, right? So I don't know why ASF put it over there. Is it their agenda? So that's the first red flag for me. And then there is this JNU batch who sings Azadi Azadi. Like, from whom do you want independence? We are not under the British anymore. I don't get it. I mean, yeah, it's a complicated issue. I would rather not talk about this in this particular video, but I'll come back to it some other time, because JNU is a big predicament on its own. The people who are there, the kind of teachings, the kind of philosophies and viewpoints these people carry, they are quite unique actually. In fact, you can say they are manufacturing lots of science and humanities graduates and putting them into the society. So, like, of course they'll have some unique viewpoints which are worth considering, but again, I don't want to support or oppose anyone right now. We are just talking about the core issues, okay? And so let's talk about the core figurehead, that is Sonam Wangchuk, right? uh, he was known to organize protests in Ladakh, and he is also known for his great deeds of starting a school and also working for environmental well-being and constitutional activism in Ladakh. So that's it. But also some critics argue that he is receiving foreign funding and he is acting with political motives, which I can neither confirm nor deny, because I can't. I still don't know how to trace money trails, but yeah, the allegation is that he has two NGOs, and the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act that is going to be amended and passed right now is going to influence his NGO's funding. So he's desperately trying to stall the government from passing that. That's the alleged version I heard. I can't actually verify this because I neither know about the FCRA Act nor about his NGOs. But if possible, like someone can point out what are his NGOs and I can go track them. And then you have Arundhati Roy, who was also seen at the event, And let's be clear, Arundhati Roy is someone who has an anti-India stance, because she said that Jammu and Kashmir was never an integral part of India, and she was also seen with Yasin Malik prior to his conviction in the terror case. So, like, now that makes me doubt whether her motives for being at the protest are genuine, or she is trying to capitalize this protest for her own agenda. Okay, so that's there. And then there is this Brahmin bashing at the protest. Like, how are Brahmins related to this? In fact, let's talk. The education minister is not a Brahmin, the prime minister is not a Brahmin. uh, there are many students in NEET who are affected, who are also Brahmins. Like, what is the purpose of bashing Brahmins in this protest? I don't get that one point. So that's a big red flag for me. And then, so, like, because of all these factors, right? I would state that it initially was a genuine protest, but the outrage was true and real, and the protest started as a genuine student protest, addressing their concerns, which are legitimate, which are very important to address. But as additional groups started participating, right, I don't think it kept the core intact. Like, it became more like, see, in fact, all these people coming to the protest hasn't helped the protest. In fact, it helped, uh, like, it started giving people reasons to not support the protest. Usually when someone influential comes and supports a protest, right, the effect we see is people are like, oh, even I should be part of this. But because of these controversial groups, political groups with their own motives and agendas, and with conflicting ideologies being part of this, some people who would have originally sided with the students are now not associating themselves with the protest, because they don't want to be seen associating and supporting the extension of this protest, which is all these additional political groups. And there is again, if there are arguments that protests are a culmination of large number of problems and multiple things will be spoken about, but I would say that's nonsense, because why the hell are we straying away from the main point? Okay, because at the end of the day all these different groups came, and you can't hear the voice of the students, you can't give the spotlight to the ones who need it. Now all of a sudden people are busy criticizing Arundhati Roy or Prakash Raj or someone else for being at the protest, uh, but they are not paying attention to the students anymore. Why is this person here instead of uh, what happened to the students? That's the kind of way the questioning changes. We lose the focus. So I would think it lost its core. And then let's come to the new kind of reels that I started watching. I had a headache. Okay, I was done with my exam and I opened Insta hoping to see some funny stuff, memes or weightlifting or something related to fitness or math memes, anything. And instead, I was hit in the face with reels saying "end of democracy," uh, "kaun se अच्छे दिन," and all this. And multiple people are criticizing each other and everyone is just fighting. Like Instagram became a battlefield because two friends are having conflicting opinions, and now there's peer pressure to support or oppose. Some people are biased towards supporting, some people are saying we support students, some people, like, it becomes complex. Okay, so I had a headache, I had to close Instagram and just uh, stay away from my device. That's the kind of effect it had on me. Because see, how can you call this the end of democracy? In democracy, first of all, you have the chance to protest. Okay, the courts intervene, they support or oppose the protest. You know, the media is allowed to cover the event. And there are debates open on media, and no one is prohibited from talking. Okay, the governments respond uh, at one point or other. That's a functioning democracy, which I think we are still not at the stage where we are unable to do protest. Otherwise people couldn't have reached Jantar Mantar and stayed there for 20 days. Sonam Wangchuk would have been kicked out very day said he would start a hunger strike. So that's there. And they would have immediately detained Abhijit Dipke and all the main members of CJP for organizing the protest if it was not a democracy. And yeah, coming to the tear gas and lathi charge, right? Governments have the right to maintain public order when there is a protest. Okay, especially when it's somewhere like a parliament, like the parliament. Because see, back when the parliament was attacked, right, six people in a car were enough to wreak havoc in the parliament. Now how the hell would you allow 20,000 people? Even the scale itself is much more scary. If even 100 of them are able to break in, the kind of destruction that they could cause is very dangerous. Destruction of property and possible attacks on uh, people holding the office. So the police has the right to stop and detain members. That's very clear. And let's look at holy grails of democracy. France, it's a democracy. Very frequent protests, a lot of molotovs are used, and there's constant conflict between the peacekeeping forces, that's the police, and the protesters. Police often use tear gas or the roads are blocked. Germany, you require a permit to start a protest. Right now, the protest that happened yesterday, right, on 20th, it was not permitted, okay? And still they were allowed over there. They were not kicked out by force. The police just barricaded and was holding position, okay? In Germany, if that's the case, the police would disperse the unlawful gatherings by force. In United Kingdom, police have more power to restrict protest, especially if they are disruptive. Though there's a different reason for that with the demographic change and all, but still, the police have the power to detain protesters. In US, again, it depends from state to state, and uh, court orders force the universities or whichever area where the protest is happening to remove all the encampments and clear out the space. So if it is the case in developed countries, we shouldn't be worried about tear gas being used in our protest. Okay, that's how protests are. Anywhere in the world, if protests start getting out of control, right? Especially once the security personnel start getting attacked or they start getting frustrated, right? uh, it is obvious, it is bound to happen, and I wouldn't defend the police force to do that, but yeah, I'd say they did their job, and there's nothing much to talk about, right? So like, this is a decent cover of what has happened so far, right? 20 minutes in, and now you know what's the situation. And like, let's see what real protests look like. Usually they have one clear demand, one main leader, limited objectives, they have a clear proposal, they are ready for negotiation, and they have a definite endpoint. Okay. So with all these things, you can say it's a good protest. And this protest, it has limited objectives, but who's the leader? Is it Abhijit Dipke or Sonam Wangchuk? uh, so that's gone. Clear demand, what is the clear demand? We don't know. They want educational reform, or they want re-NEET, or they want reinstation of scores. We don't know what's the main demand. Okay, they are demanding for justice. What does justice mean? That's the point. Are they ready for negotiation? uh, Seems so, but again, we are not sure, because the multiple people who have tried hijacking the protest, right? And what's the end point? They haven't stated what they want from this protest. Okay, so there's no different endpoint. If seeing within India, Anna Hazare's anti-corruption movement, uh, he didn't let it become politicized, and he remained clear about his objectives till the end. Okay. Then you have farmers protests that happened right after COVID, and even though they were also slightly hijacked in some parts, most of the farmers protests were focused on one point, that is the farm laws and the reversal of them. So that's a clear protest. Even then police was deployed and all, even then barricading was done. So it's not like the police were not doing anything that time, and they did all these things just to stop students. And then RTI movement, right to information, is another great movement where the protests for that, they appear to be good. Like, those are the hallmarks for me. And coming to the controversial part, that is the FCRA, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Apparently, our parliament is planning to pass the bill in the monsoon session. But again, the allegations are that some NGOs or activists are involved with networks where they receive foreign funding to plot against the nation, work against the nation. And I can't say much on this, because for that you need to actually have a clear money trail, which right now I don't have. So I'd rather refrain from making any claims. But yeah, if FCRA is involved in a discussion, you should ask three questions: who is sending the funds from other countries? Like, who's uh, like, did the organization receive foreign funding, and who is the funder? Is it registered under FCRA? And How is the foreign funding influencing the future of, let's say, a protest or a nation, or just anything related to politics, because there is this one common name that I keep hearing: Open Society Foundation, that belongs to George Soros. Okay, so they say that he works against India, allegedly. Okay, I am not making that as a concrete claim, but yeah. Now, this is all the political side of the things. Let's talk about the actual reason for these problems. Uh, what is causing the problem? Why are people so crazy about NEET? Okay, 25 lakh students write a single exam for 1 lakh MBBS seats. Okay, so the chance of a person getting a seat is 1 in 25, and if he joins in a government college, right, through NEET, he'll at most pay 1 lakh per year. That's 4 lakhs for 4 years of MBBS. And if he has to do that in a private MBBS college, it would cost him 1 crore. Okay. So if someone promises that they'll leak the paper for 20 lakhs, right? If he actually gets the original paper, which was leaked, he spent only 24 lakhs for his old MBBS seat and still saved 75 lakhs instead of paying 1 crore to the private college. So you think it's better to risk this 20 lakhs rather than pay 1 crore to, a private MBBS. No? So that is the main incentive to cheat. Cheating will still be cheaper rather than not cheating and possibly losing the opportunity to get a government seat. That's why these leaking networks exist in the first place. And also, family expectations are one thing, because parents often invest multiple years and they spend a lot on coaching. They put all their savings just so that they can see the kid become a doctor. The emotional pressure from the family is enormous for the students to handle, and the coaching culture of NEET is completely revolving around just NEET, nothing else. They don't have enough time to develop hobbies or play sports or meet their friends or develop their personality. They don't have time to explore themselves. Okay, and that's one more issue. And one more thing I want to say: JE, when you are writing JE, right, you know that you have two attempts. So you are like, if I don't get the seat in the first attempt, I can still try in the second attempt. Okay, you have that kind of positive attitude. Many students have that kind of, I have a safety net. I have another exam if I don't get this. Like, there's a kind of safety you have when you're doing engineering, but NEET doesn't have the same kind of safety net. There is only one exam, it is only conducted once, and there is no second session, or like, there's no other alternative than NEET, So it kind of forces the student, and all of a sudden, the mental pressure that builds up preparing for NEET, and they write the exam, and all of a sudden, someone says your exam is not worth it. All the pressure they built up just straight up explodes, and it makes them do the unthinkable, like committing, uh, I can't say the word out because I don't know if YouTube will censor me, but yeah. And also, like, there is a lot of prestige and everything that comes with the title of being a doctor, because it increases your status in society. You have more security. There is also family honor and all. These are all unnecessary expectations that are showed onto a aspirant, so this often creates a melting pot of bad decisions for the student to make, because at the end, if they fail NEET, right, they consider it a personal failure rather than failing an exam, they think they failed at life, because till the point they have been taught that NEET is their only identity. They are NEET aspirant, they only do NEET, they study NEET, they sleep, everything is about NEET. Okay, So how can we address this? One of the things is, increase the seats, because we have limited seats. This is a structural problem. So the infrastructure is, we need to build more colleges, we need to get more doctors. Okay. And also I think the time it takes to actually create a good doctor, right? You can crank out engineers every 4 years. Every year you get a new batch, and it totally takes 4 years at the least to crank out a doctor. Oh wait, to crank out an engineer. Sorry, I'm confusing, because every year you will have a new batch coming out, new batch coming in. 4 years for BTech, another 2 years if the person is doing MTech, and let's say another 5 years, 11 years at the most if the person is doing PhD, right? And the low end is 4 years to crank out an engineer. Now let's come to MBBS. 4 years MBBS, then they have to do a specialty, and then they have to uh, do, what do you call this? They have to learn at the hospitals for another 2 years. That's like, let's say another. It takes 9 years just to create a basic doctor. Okay, and then again they can do super specialty. That's another 5 years. Now the total time it takes is 14 years for the doctor to be top notch. Okay, and the bare minimum is 9 years, and it can go as far as 14 years, right? So getting quality doctors will take long time, and it will cost a lot of money. So of course, this gives incentives to cheat early on so that you can future proof yourself. Okay, that's why increasing the seats are necessary. And also another solution is, increase security. uh, because when you're transporting these question papers, right? uh, I mean, if you look at China, right, they send these question papers, like the question papers are created in the prison where a select few professors are brought together. They create the question paper, and they don't know which set is going to go out. All these people are sent back again. uh, they choose the set and they transport it, and there's military protection for that, so there is no way the paper can leak uh, for a student attempting the Gakao, that's their version of JE NEET. Okay, and one more thing is, enforcement. If paper leak is alleged, the case should be resolved easily, and relevant criminals or people who are offenders should be punished. That's the main requirement, because if the law exists but there's no enforcement, it's just a paper tiger, which we don't want. Okay, then mental health support. This is something that we have been talking about, but we don't actually do any shit about this, because like there's a lot of stigma around not choosing the conventional doctor or engineer path. So like, first of all, we need to teach them that career doesn't define you, you define your career. And you should also give them the option to explore alternate careers, so that would be one thing. And you should also support merit, you should ensure that you're getting competent doctors. You can maybe get away with a non-meritorious engineer, because engineering forces you to learn, but uh, you can't allow a non-meritorious doctor, because what if, like, it's a risk that people are not willing to take. Okay, and also this is a proposal that I have, that how do we fix uh, the reservation, right now the reservation acts like you are from general category, this is your goal post. Okay, if you are from SC or ST, this is your goal post. Okay, if you are from OBC, this is your goal post. So they move the goal post to the person rather than helping the person reach the goal post, because you should maintain a standard and everyone should hit that threshold or even cross that standard, okay, you should give them a slight amount of advantage, So, like, I would say instead of lowering the qualifying standard, one model is to provide a limited initial score. That's like giving a head start for disadvantaged groups. Uh, so, this again changes from state to state, In some states, some communities are SC, STs, and in other states, they become OBCs. So, like, this keeps varying, right? So, based on that, where the government should actually do analysis, they need to check the status of the community in a particular state and at the national level, and then based on that decide how much head start they are going to give, so the final competency threshold should be the same for everyone should hit at least a bare minimum of x, okay. This person is from a disadvantaged background, let's give him 5 marks or maybe 10 marks or 15 or 13, whatever, so that's how, it helps create quality doctors and engineers. Because see, you can't compare a person who runs 40 meters with the person who runs 100 meters. They're completely two different things, If a person can run 40 meters in 9.6 seconds and Usain Bolt runs 100 in 9.6 seconds, Usain Bolt is obviously greater, He's the Olympic champion at the end of the day. Doesn't mean because this guy ran his and reached his goal in 9.6 seconds, he should also be a champion. No, that does not make him a champion. The standard should be the same. So Usain Bolt waits for 5 seconds, and this guy runs, and then both of them run together. If both of them finish the 100 meters in 9.6 seconds, then both of them are good. That's the kind of thing we want. Okay. Oh, that's a good example. Actually, I'm proud of myself. And like to conclude all of this, right? Students deserve justice for the wrongdoing in NEET. Governments must protect integrity of competitive examinations because it's not just with NEET, it's with QET, right? CUET, and also like even at state level there are many paper leaks. So that's not something we should take lightly. But at the same time, every large protest should be judged by whether it stays focused on its original purpose and whether multiple political ideological groups join, right? Uh, some people view it as broader democratic participation, but I believe that it dilutes the voice of students, In fact, multiple groups coming together are not letting students to express their needs, They're drowning the students. So regardless of where one stands politically, the solution is stricter enforcement, better security, expanding the quality and infrastructure, reducing competition, and providing alternatives for students. And at the end, a honest student should never be disadvantaged because that's worse than, just simply, like at the end of the day, many honest students who had nothing to do with the paper leak had their exams nullified, right? That kind of stress, nobody should go through that at the end. This is one thing that I relate very deeply. So I think that is the main point, honest students should never be disadvantaged. This should be the main resolution, that the government as well as the protest should reach, because at the end of the day, uh, students today build the nation tomorrow. So that's what we need to work on. Anyways, if you have any discussions, or if you want to talk about anything, you can probably like uh, what do you say, put it out in the comments, or like share your viewpoints with me. I'll be very glad to accept them. And one thing I want to know is Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.